come off the reservation. That's usually what people do when they go gambling. They try
Well,
to win.
that's true. I did learn don't talk about people because they'll get mad at me. But yeah, it was a great ride and stuff. Today's show, I you know I know I got to cover a lot of bad during the week because of the biker news and stuff, but that really isn't what the 1% scene's all about. It is about helping your community out, and there's a lot of clubs out there that wear the diamond that really do help that community. They really bring it together to do the runs, do the parties, do the benefits. And I think it's time to put that kind of good stuff out there.
I agree with that. And this is why that I think it's such a great thing having, these guys on here because they, like you were saying in the very beginning, they run their own YouTube channel, their own like podcast, their own show on the Big Boneyard. And they're also hyperlink guys. So you guys can go ahead and hit them on my channel. Just subscribe right there for them. And but yeah, I'm a big fan of them. I've actually been watching them since the roundtable days, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
So I know I've been watching and following for a long time. So I know that what they put out, what they do, and they're very informative people. So I really like what they do for their community.
I do, man. They've came so far, man. This ain't the easiest thing to get into, and they hit their 1,000 sub mark, and I was real happy for them on there, and they're just keeping going and going and going, and I hope a lot of people start subscribing to them over there. They got some really good subjects that they dive into is what I like. And most of the time, there was one that they did that really got to me. And, it takes a lot to burn my ass hairs. It does. It takes a lot to burn my ass hairs. But they were talking about these white supremacists. And one of the biggest things with me is, because I'm a real patriotic guy. Okay. I had a brother in the Marines and I had an uncle that died in Vietnam. When you see, and this is a subject we'll broach on that, but when you see people actually throwing a Nazi salute, I sit back there and I look at it different than most people because of the military stuff with my family. I say to myself, you know how many freaking people died now during World War II to kill that Nazi son of a bitch. The things that he did to our soldiers during World War II. And you sit back and you watch these freaks do that. How can you even call yourself an American? So that is one episode they really got me. Okay, they got me. Man.
They have some immense topics, and not just. I mean,
it's
every issue that they talk about.
It was a deep conversation though, and that's what you're going to get over at the Big Boneyard. You're not going to get something that's not going to challenge your mind.
That's true. That's very true. You sit back and listen, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm going to. There's some interesting stuff here. You know what I mean? There's a lot to learn. You never know it all, and I love when guys like these guys, where they have a lot of knowledge, they're coming out and presenting, hey, this is what A, B, and C is supposed to look like, and they do it very well on their channel.
And these are guys that are actually in the club scene, so. I always say go to the guys that know what the hell they're talking about. And these are two of the guys that really do know. Let's see here. Normandy and he even said we fought. Well, we're not going to get into politics here. That was just one example how they challenge your mind and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But let's bring him in, Mike. Let's bring him in. Let's talk to him here. Let's get it going.
We got Big Bone and Archbishop. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Boom. Set up. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, full disclosure, that was me that hit the applause button.
I like that.
Man, old Bone getting professional here. Got the POVs and everything.
Very nice.
I remember when he started out just a cell phone.
Yeah, right. And
hey,
with dial-up internet.
So
With
that was
dial-up
one.
internet.
That was one thing I was
AOL,
gonna
baby.
ask you guys is how long? Like, I mean, I remember watching you guys back in the roundtable days. You know,
Yeah.
is that when you guys very first decided to start doing YouTube, or were you guys doing it prior to that? Like, how did you guys get to the point of like, hey, we're gonna do a show together?
Man, you know what? So it interesting thing. So way back, well before the roundtable, Black Dragon and I used to talk back and forth about a lot of different things, and he would actually call me and ask me questions about different stuff. And this is well before getting on the show or any of that. We just kind of talked. We knew each other, and when we got together, I guess Hollywood, you and you, Dragon, and Carlos from Wild On. Yeah, it was you, Dragon, and Carlos got together and were like, "Hey, let's do this thing." And we had talked about it before, and you guys actually got it started. And I guess sometime after it got started, Dragon was just like, "Hey, how about you come on the show and jump in there?" And that's what
Right
sort
on.
of started that end of it. But prior to that, I was doing, I was writing in the magazines and doing like full throttle, full throttle news and full throttle biker TV and Born to Ride biker TV. And Archbishop was busy running the damn set in a couple of different states. And he and I, of course, me and him been cool for forever and ever. So every now and then I'd work on a certain subject, or whether it was one of the shows or the roundtable or something. And Archbishop would say, "Hey, well, next time, make sure you throw that out there." So I would always, and you guys have heard me mention Wise a lot of times, and I'd say, "Yeah, my brother Wise says this, brother Wise says that." Well, one of the ones who was saying different things that wanted me to throw out some info was Archbishop. He'd say, "Man, you ought to make sure you tell him this or this, that,"
Mhm.
or like after a show, we'd get together and chop it up. So a lot of folks during the roundtable time were like, "Man, me and Dragon we're certainly still cool, but we had a slightly difference of opinion on certain things in the way a show should go, like maybe who the guest is or maybe who they shouldn't be, that kind of thing." So we had a few different things, and with a lot of folks pushing, saying, "Hey, do your own show." I'm like, what the hell? So a few months after getting started, Archbishop was still going, "Hey, make sure you say this, make sure you say that." And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. How about you bring
How
your
about you say it?
you say that shit?
Yeah, you say it.
And so and I remember like it was yesterday. He said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that." And day one was sort of like, "So what do I do?" I'm like, "That same shit," you
Yep.
know. And
Yep.
and the thing was, I think what happened, I remember, I want to say about the second time Archbishop came on, he forgot that he was on as we call it, he forgot he was on TV, and that's when the shit got real good. Because then it was just a couple of bros who were talking and going to different, we had different guests and just me and him chopping up on different things. And I think a lot of the folks that watch absolutely benefited from that, because the
Right.
whole idea, in fact, the round table, the idea of the round table, or at least my vision of it, and I used to share with you and Black Dragon, that, hey man, what if you could be a fly on the wall in the clubhouse and a bunch of gray bearded motherfuckers are just sitting over here chopping up about whatever damn subject? Wouldn't it be cool to be the fly on the wall? So the idea of that show was to create that kind of atmosphere. What if you was that fly on the wall? So what me and Archbishop, I think, do is we create that fly on the wall environment for those folks that watch us, and we might find ourselves talking about any kind of thing, but now we just have more people joining the conversation. So the boneheads that watch are, they're great with the comments, and we see a bunch of them right now. Hey, a matter of fact, hey, China Doll, what's up? And matter of fact, tell her I said hey, or if she's watching,
Well,
hey, China
no,
Doll.
we also got to give a shout out to Uncle Shaggy, man. Uncle
Yeah,
Shaggy.
I was getting ready to. Yes, sir.
Damn.
Yes, sir. Shaggy, that's what's up. Shaggy. All right, I'm gonna quit doing that. I swear. No, man. And Shaggy is absolutely. I was actually gonna get to him. Shaggy is one of them dudes who early on, in fact, he was one of those ones, man, you need to do it, because he had Uncle Shaggy's Corner, and he was pretty adamant. And here's the thing. A lot of folks, you would assume in other industries or in other environments or whatever, people like, oh man, I'm doing this thing. I don't want any competition. I want somebody else doing this. That's not the case here because, hey, China dog, what's up, girl? But, you know, it's like in this environment, I have got to say legitimately that this has never been one of those, oh, damn, somebody else is going to do this thing. Man, when I tell you, doggone Hollywood, you have been like freaking, you're the brother that's my brother. You know what I mean? You were like, if you need some information, I got you. Here's how you do this. Talk to so-and-so. Here's what's up with this. Here's what's up with that. I'm coming to Florida to fuck with you guys. You know, whatever it is, it's been nothing but open doors. Black Dragon, same difference. Dibber is another one. He's in the freaking UK and he's same difference. Doors open, come on in, plenty of room, the water's fine, all like that. And Uncle Shaggy, man, you know, this whole YouTube, you know, podcasting thing, one of the best things about it is that I personally have gotten some great friends out of it, you know. So now Shaggy and I, we run together, you know, because I always tease him and say he's the white version of me in Missouri. He's the chairman of the COC out there. I'm the chairman here in Florida, and you know, we'll link up and go to Income or some of this other stuff. He was just in the Northeast a little bit ago. He called both of us like, hey, are y'all here? And when we said no, we're not there, he was legitimately like not happy about it, because that's how we, you know, we get together, you know. But last thing, man, great introduction for us, man. And I know I appreciate it. I know doggone Archbishop does as well. But you know, we're just doing our thing, and we're glad it got started and got where we are. But I'm going to shut up for a minute.
Well, Archbishop, one of the things that I like about your guys' channel is the thought-provoking content that you bring out. It's just not biker related. You got actual content that make people sit back and say, and that's what makes a good creator. And I think there needs to be more of that thought-provoking content from everybody, just not one type of, okay, here we are, this is what we do, but content creators like yourselves that make people think.
Well, you know, that was the whole point. You know, when me and Bone first started doing this, and we were, of course, we was talking about the biker stuff and all that, and we was like, you know, eventually, you know, you got Hollywood, you got Dragon, you got everybody doing this. Eventually, you're gonna run out of shit to talk about, and we didn't want to be one of those shows that kind of doubled what somebody else had already spoke on. So, me and Bone got two different mindsets. I'm more controversial than Bone is. Okay, so you know, like Bone is we like on the show, we like yin and yang, but we coincide together. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we was coming up with, it was like I wanted to talk about the stuff to where, you know, a couple times I said on the show, like, yeah, we may be in bike clubs and we may be talking about the MC world, but we're also a people first. So we need to talk about, you know, stuff that relates to everyone.
Human interest. And that's
Exactly.
what you guys do, is human interest topics.
You know, so anything that you pick up off the show, you can put it with anything. You can put it in your personal life. You can put it with work. You can put it with the club scene. It's multifaceted. So you can move it and use it for whatever you use it for.
Well, you know, I don't think that either of us are more controversial. I think what it is it seems that way, or it feels, which is a good thing if some of that can translate to the audience. But I think what it is we're trying to get to the same place. We see a different way of getting there sometimes, that's like the behind the scenes stuff, which one of these days we're going to do like a video of us going back and forth, like when we end the show, but we're still talking to each other type of thing.
Green room.
Yeah, like the green room kind of a thing. Because, like, for example, I remember shortly after Archbishop came on the show, he was, you know, and got involved and became the co-host. He was like, we ought to avoid the politics, because the politics are politics, and, you know, politics and religion, we ought to avoid that. Now, he's the dude who brings up politics before I do. But you know, right.
Well, let's be honest about that, Big Bone. You guys do it in a way where you can teach this country something. We can have different opinions, but we can debate the issues and we can discuss the issues without going out there where you're a prick this or you're a prick that. You guys let your audience get involved where there's an actual discussion about the subject.
You know, we have a and you know, that's it's our goal, but it wasn't our main focus. Our main focus was putting information out there so that the folks that wanted it could get it. If they didn't want it, that's fine too. But it wasn't ever to like get preachy or anything like that. But it's turned into a good resource for a lot of folks, or that's what they tell us anyway. We have there's this one guy, Ken, great guy. He has a fan site that he created, and he is about as polar opposite as we are, politically speaking, than friggin', you know, I mean, it's like Trump and Biden. I mean, they're
there you go,
like
the
that,
exact opposite.
It's like that kind of a thing, politically speaking. However, the stuff that we cover on the show has turned him into a legit fan. And even there's many a times when we'll say something politically, and he'll chime in and say his piece, and he's able to say what he wants to say, and we hear it and respect it, even if we don't. I've learned some stuff from him. He's learned some stuff from me. And I've said this about 8,000 times. If the rest of the world could figure out what we figured out on the set, like in the biker community, because at the heart of it, we're just a couple of old bikers, right? But bikers have a way of interacting with each other, especially when we're on the same page or on the, you know, we wear the same jewelry, if you know what I mean. We have a tendency to know how to communicate with each other. If our so-called elected leaders, if we can call them that, could kind of figure that shit out, man, the world would be a better place. America would be a better country, you know, because we figure out you don't even have to like somebody to respect them or to respect their seat or their position or what it is that they have to say about something. And that's not something that we see in the world, but it is something that's pretty commonplace on the set. You know, how many times has a certain club that y'all were beefing with 2 years ago, you were around 2 years ago when y'all were beefing pretty heavy, and you might have went to the hospital a couple of times because of it, to check on one of your brothers who didn't have a good interaction with somebody. Well, 2 years later, you know, the bosses have worked that shit out. You're still pissed off because you remember that time you had to go see your brother in the hospital. Well, guess what? We got to work that shit out. So now what do? You work that shit out, you know. Like so I'm doing through there. It's like a big old circle. But that's what we do on the set. That's what we do on the show. And again, hopefully some folks watching can kind of pick up on some of that shit. If they can pick up what we're putting down, then we probably did.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can always agree to disagree, but as long as we respect each side, and I see what you're saying is your audience, for instance, could have the exact opposite of what you're saying, you know, thought-wise, but at the same token, you're not sitting there going, oh, I'm going to ban you out of here. You're just some annoyance, you know, blah, blah, blah. You're like allowing them to go ahead and speak their piece, probably read their comment, and you actually give them their due diligence for what they've got to put out there. So that's really cool. I like how you definitely integrate your audience that way.
Well, what I like, Bishop, is you and Bone bring spotlight to a segment of the biker community, and not a lot of people know or understand, and that is the black biker set. You know, because when a lot of people think of bikers, all they do is think about, you know, the one set, the white guys and all that, the popular ones, the famous clubs, but there's a lot of history within your set.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And if you go back and look at the history, you know, the actual black motorcycle set has been around just as long as the white set has been around. You know, it just wasn't heavily talked about, you know, because the other ones were more prominent, you know. So then once you started seeing them later on, and you was like, oh, I didn't even realize y'all was a club. Well, hell, they've been a club since 65. And it was I mean, these are like people that you didn't even pay attention to at one point in time, you know what I mean? But now you take heed into it, you know what I mean? Now you pay attention to them because you see them now, you know, where before they were just kind of under the radar, and nobody really paid attention.
Well,
No.
one of the most prominent and this is just not the club scene, but the whole scene as the whole, one of the most prominent people in the world of motorcycling was Sugar Bear. And
Oh,
a lot of people don't know about Sugar Bear, especially the younger guys. But what does somebody like Sugar Bear actually? He didn't get credit for that Easy Rider bike either.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But go ahead, Big Bone, about Sugar.
Well, him and Cliff, yeah, it just jumped out of my head. But Sugar Bear and Cliff, damn it, y'all, they're gonna pull my black card for getting this last name. But no, these cats, they had a whole thing going on back in the day, and back in the 60s, you know, the whole, you know, the black side, the black set, it was still a thing. And some kind of way, one of the producers, I guess, from that was making that movie Easy Rider, saw these things that he had never seen before, which was a chopper. And not just a chopper, but inverted. The front wheel was inverted with it going down, and, you know, with the doggone the rotor coming up this way. Nobody had ever seen anything like that. And the funny thing is that actually came from, if you, depending on which story you want to hear, that came from, man, I don't have money to go to Harley, or I can't go to Harley and because I'm black. You couldn't go to Harley as a black guy and just buy you a damn bike. So
by the way, Bone, Steve says it's Cliff Vaughn.
Yeah, Cliff Vaughn. Thank you, Cliff Vaughn. Cliff Vaughn and Sugar Bear. You know, these guys were doing what a lot of the brothers did back then. They was like, you know, pick up a piece here, pick up a piece there, pick up a piece here, pick up a piece there, and do like black folks have done for generations. And they made something real nice out of a bunch of junk. And that junk that they turned into something beautiful became an art form. And it was something for quite a while that was just seen on the black biker set. And once Easy Rider got a hold of it, it became, you know, the iconic Captain America bike and things of this sort. And you're right, that, you know, they didn't get credit for it, but it goes back to that's sort of the history of America. And forgive the expression, but it's the whitewashing of America that it's been happening for so long that it's very commonplace. For example, I had this conversation with somebody, I want to say it was night before last. We were talking about going to Sturgis. So I told the whole, here's why I never went to Sturgis, but here's why I'm ready to go to Sturgis now story. And one of the people, it was a woman that was, it was Thursday night, excuse me. And the one lady said, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I said, well, you ever been to Daytona? She says, well, sure, of course. For bike week, I go a couple of times a year. I said, yeah. I said, you ever been to the black side? She said, the what now? I said, in Daytona, the black side. She goes, what's that? I said, okay, well, in Daytona, I said, there's a college there called Bethune-Cookman. She goes, yeah, I think I heard of that. I said, well, if you go to Bethune-Cookman during Bike Week or Biketoberfest, you're going to see a whole bunch of black and brown folks on one part of town. She goes, oh, black people go to Daytona. I'm like, of course they do. I said, but they go now because they're allowed to. Years ago, they couldn't, which is why they have what's commonly referred to as the black side over by Bethune-Cookman. And here's the crazy thing. I only found out about that maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And I say only because it's been going on forever. And there's a whole lot of different places just like that. Like in Florida, there's Leesburg and, you know, but Sturgis, once upon a time, here's some crazy shit about that. Sturgis is, and I'm going to come back to Cliff Vaughn and Sugar Bear in a second, but with Sturgis, the guy who sort of changed all of that and made it like cool for a lot of black folks to start going. I mean, other than Buffalo Soldiers been going there for a long time, but outside of the Buffalo Soldiers, who were sort of like the token okay to go to
Chicago born, baby.
Yeah. Those guys made it. You know, those guys were doing that thing. They were doing it for the longest time, but it was sort of like, well, those guys are okay because those are Buffalo Soldiers, and that's all we need of those guys with the good tans right now. But the weirdest shit, you all remember Dennis Rodman?
Oh, yeah.
How can we forget that man?
Another Chicago. Well, he's a Chicago. Was a Chicago Bull.
He's a Chicago icon, man. With
yeah. So he doggone Dennis Rodman being all his, with all his weird, crazy stuff and the purple hair and wearing the dresses and all like that, he decided he wanted to go to Sturgis with the guy from Vidal Sassoon. I forget his name, but the guy from the hair product people, him, Vidal Sassoon, or the guy from that company, and Peter Fonda, who were some kind of weird ass way, we're all friends. And he had a motorcycle made for him by OCC, Orange County Choppers, and they made it because he's tall as fuck. So they made a motorcycle for Dennis Rodman, and he wanted to ride that damn motorcycle to Sturgis. And he went, there's video of it online and pictures and everything else. So he went to Sturgis. Now, if you were a baller, rich black guy, all you wanted to do now, because Rodman just did it, you wanted to get you a motorcycle and go. So, of course, Shaq has the Superman bike built. You all remember that. So Shaq has his Superman bike built, and Michael Jordan goes to Sturgis. And so now, if you're a baller or if you're cool and you got some dough and you're black, one of the things that you want to do is you want to go to Sturgis like those guys. And next thing you know, you got black people, brown people, and all kinds of folks going to Sturgis, and nobody raised an eyebrow. Whereas if you're talking 20 plus years ago, different situation. Whereas now it's cool to, take a picture with your favorite black guy at Sturgis, because it's, sort of like it was like a unicorn once upon a time, whereas now it just is.
What about that, Archbishop, how the scene has become more inclusive for everybody, where like Bone just said 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case, where everything was separated?
Well, I think it's I think it kind of comes along with the time, and as people started evolving, then they started being more accepting to other things that's going on. Okay, like I'll give you an example. 20 years ago, you didn't hear of people walking around flamboyantly gay that's walking the streets. That it was. Now it is. You know what I mean? You didn't hear about, transgenders and stuff like that. Now you do. So it's kind of like as we evolved as a country, some things changed, some things stayed the same, because because even with the change that we have going on now, you still have fractions of people that want to keep it the same. You know what I mean? So if they still keep it as though it was 1955, they would keep it at 1955. I think us as a people have evolved, and being that we have evolved, then a lot of things that we try to change the history, we try to change the narrative and the dynamic of what's been previously going on, because if you don't change that, then it just continues to become a recurring cycle. So there had to be people to step up to be able to change that dynamic, and that's what we're all doing right now. Even
absolutely,
changing the dynamic.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Being able to have a upward trajectory of it's not necessarily about like plateauing or anything like that, or going down. It's really just about an upward trajectory of just bettering ourselves as human beings nonstop, right? And I think that is, like you said, a representation right here, right now. And as you were going to say, Howard,
I think proper evolution is going to bring us to events like this, like right now, because this is an event. Somebody's going to watch this and definitely get something out of it, and they're going to get that message that Archbishop just said, and it's going to hit them. They're going to be like, damn, that's right, look at it. Like, yeah, these two white guys and these two black guys, and wow. And that's a cool thing. The funny thing is that, and Archbishop just said this, there's still those factions of pockets of individuals who want to roll back the clock to 1955. Shit, we're in Florida. We're literally seeing that like every day in the state of Florida, because we've got a governor who wants it to be 1955. So like, if I wanted to take Asian American studies or European studies or what is the other one? German history or any of that in Florida, I could do that. But interestingly enough, what you can't do, there is no African American studies in Florida, because DeSantis, he did away with that. And like first it was "Don't Say Gay," which Archbishop actually hit on that a little bit as well. The "Don't Say Gay" bill that they passed, and inviting and dealing with and being supported by openly for years, the American Nazi movement. These are the supporters of our governor, who is very openly hostile against Black folks and gays, and friggin', not a big fan of women. But the thing is, though, is that there are those factions, but as long as we have a platform to get good, solid information and to call bullshit on that, we can do it. This governor, nobody is all bad, right? So he's done a couple of things got a couple of good things done because a lot of good folks around him, are in opposition to him, even got some stuff done. But at the same exact time, he's done some real bad. Then what I was talking about was he signed a bill right after fucking over the state of Florida in a lot of ways. He signed a bill for motorcycle safety and awareness, which gave a few $1 million a year on a 5-year contract to groups like ABATE and a couple other MRO type organizations to basically to save lives. And I said, man, that's great. Now I was deeply involved in that whole effort. So
and by the way, you are history, Big Bone, because you are actually a president of the COC, and there you wouldn't have seen that 15, 20 years ago.
That's
right.
True. Okay, all right. I'm going to interrupt my damn self and tell you. So, and I was thinking of this earlier when you were saying something, and Archbishop remembers how it was back in the day, but back in the very early 2000s, when I first joined the COC, I literally got stopped by a guy and said, "Hey, you're in the wrong place." I said, no, I'm supposed to be here for the COC meeting. And he literally did one of these. This one?
Here?
Like, yeah. And this dude went to tell me, I'm going to change the names to protect the innocent. But this one guy from a certain club that's still around said, no, he says, I think you got this mixed up because we don't have your type of people here. He goes, matter of fact, I've never seen a Black dude on a Harley before, let alone, and back then I used to wear the little president thing. He goes, let alone a president of a club. He goes, but I don't give a fuck what you are. You ain't welcome here. So there's one certain 1%er who happened to be the chairman of that COC comes over and he goes, hey, he goes, what's going on here? We got a problem? And this guy says, nah, we don't have a problem. I'm trying to show this guy the door. And we're outside, by the way. He goes, I'm trying to show this so-and-so the door. And I said, yeah, I think we do have a problem because this guy seems to have a problem with me being here. What he didn't know is that this white 1%er with the swastika was the one who asked me to come there. And and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he did the thing that they did. He got a little loud. This guy, I'm sure he was on solid foods and probably a couple of 3 weeks after that. But the point is that it was a hostile environment. And that was in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Just because I had a good tan and wanted to be involved and do some good shit for my community, just even back then wasn't a thing. So now, but like you said, so flash forward, day one, my first experience, day one of the COC is weird as all hell because now I'm the chairman of that same exact COC about 20 years later. I'm the chairman of that same COC. Good tan and all with those same exact clubs and a bunch of other ones as a part of that COC. And Archbishop is the freaking sergeant. Hold on to yet. He's the sergeant arms for the same COC. So they didn't get one, they got two.
Yeah, well, you guys are changing history.
Another thing that's interesting, Archbishop, that people don't know about history and why a lot of Blacks are just finally getting into Harley Davidson. A lot of Blacks weren't welcome into a Harley Davidson dealer back in the day.
Yep.
True. And like I said, if you was having this conversation in the 60s and mid 70s, no, you didn't. I mean, even in the 80s, you didn't even see that.
Yeah.
A lot of the bikes that was written during that time were usually, bikes that people done modified the bikes to make them look as close to a Harley as you could get without it being a Harley.
The Harley Davidson.
Yeah, right. Harley or Honda Davidson.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You got those two.
You're right. You know what I mean? Everybody had a Honda Davidson during that time.
Yeah, the Honda Davidsons.
Hell, I had 2 at that time. But you know, like now, you know, they open arms about it because you think about it, you know, there's a lot of black people that got bikes, you know, and they're not buying little bikes. They buying road glides and street glides and ultras and trikes. You know, they buying these high dollar bikes. So now they don't mind. You know what I mean? But like I said, that goes along with the whole evolution part anyway. You know what I mean? Because eventually you're gonna have to think, you know, like back then, a lot of people, they didn't give a fuck, to tell you the truth. You know, if they can make, you know, okay, they can come in here and I can make this amount of money off of these people over here, or I can keep it segregated and I'm just make this money here. Back then, they would just make this money right here. You know what I mean? Now, money rules everything. So
damn straight.
So when it comes to actually purchasing, they don't give a fuck if you black, blue, green, polka dotted. You know, they don't. As long as you got good credit and you can make that payment, your ass is getting this. You know what I mean? And they're gonna make sure you walk out with it. You know what I mean? They don't think about it no more. It was like we gonna work with you.
They'll tell you like what's your minimum monthly or the max monthly you can have, and then we'll stretch it out 16 years if we need. You know, it's like they'll do whatever they need in order to get you.
We're gonna buy your old shit. Hell, it may be a 1999. We're gonna give you 9,000 for it.
Yep.
Get this bike, knowing damn well that bike ain't worth a damn. But they're gonna buy it from me because they know that you got to spend 23, 24, 25, 30, 35,000 up for these bikes here. You know what I mean? So they don't mind doing that. And then once you take them back, and you know, especially dealing with Harley, them bitches always break down. So going back and forth. I mean, the best bike that was ever built, to tell you the truth, was a Victory. They ran themselves out of business because them bikes were so good that they didn't break down. You know what I mean? They ran themselves out of business. You know, Harley, you guaranteed. That's what the HD stands for, $100. You know what I mean?
Every time.
That's what it is. You know what I mean? My uncle always told me, money talks, bullshit runs marathons. That's what it is these days. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you got the dollars and you're willing to pay for it, then they're gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of this stuff has changed, because before everybody their ethics and their morals were groomed from their fathers and their mothers, who this is how they taught us to be. Now it's like it hit a generation where the generation was like, you know what? That's bullshit. You know, because Jack over here is my good friend. You know what I mean? He ain't never do nothing to me. You know what I mean? Why am I around, you know, acting like this for what? You know what I mean? So like I said, like it took a generation to change it. And then it's, you know, it started to progress from there. But then like even just like we was talking about before we put us on Hollywood, about what happened down here in Florida at Disney. You know, you have families that come into this state every day just to go. You know what I mean? That's the biggest tourist attraction in the country, is to go to Disney. And so you can imagine a family that's coming from Oklahoma or Ohio or New York or whatever, and they driving to Disney, and they see, when you're coming down this long stretch and you see Walt Disney World, this big thing that goes all the way across the road, and you're like, okay, so now this is remember the commercial back in the day, this is the happiest place you ever could be. And you drive in there and you get right to the grounds, and what do you see? Is that they got a swastika covering up Mickey and Minnie, and they sitting out there doing this shit. So, but you got your kids in the back. You know what I mean? So the question that we brought up last week is that how is it, like, what is it that you're going to tell your kids what that means? You know what I mean? Because you can't just say ignore it, or you can't just say, oh, I'm just some stupid fuckers, don't pay no attention. You can tell them why it's stupid. You know what I mean? Or why they're even there in the first place. You know what I mean? Because there's like certain questions you just can't get around. You have to be straightforward with what's going on, and then be able to not only tell them what's going on, but be able to steer them away from that.
From the BS, right?
But you know what? One of the things that they talked about DeSantis used the argument of early on, before he tried to clean up his pitch about squashing all the African American history. He was like, "Oh, it's related to CRT, and CRT is bad because it makes white kids feel bad about themselves." Well, I call bullshit on that, because here's the thing: all history is full of good stuff and full of bad stuff. The lesson should be not just that some white folks who were really European, but if you go back far enough, not that long before slavery times, but if you look at, okay, yeah, some white folks had some black folks as slaves, but guess what? It was some white folks who helped fight for the freedom of those slaves. So how come they can't learn that some white folks did some good stuff and some white folks did some bad stuff? Just like, Harriet Tubman was known to kill a so-and-so if she was trying to help y'all escape, and you had one of them who got cold feet or wanted to snitch or something like that. Hey, they might say, well, Harriet Tubman was a murderer. Well, so maybe that's a bad thing, but she did some good stuff too. But going back to what we were talking about with Harley, is my cousin, when he came, I'm getting ready to age myself a little bit, but when one of my cousins, my older cousins, came back from Vietnam, 3 brothers, and they all came back, which that in and of itself was freaking amazing. But two of them wanted to buy motorcycles straight away because they got with some buddies over there, and that's a normal transition, military to the MC. And so they joined this one certain club that I don't care for nowadays, but I give them a break because it was in the 70s and they probably didn't know any better. They were probably high on something. But anyway, they joined this club, and they both wanted Harley Davidsons because they had some military money, and both of them went to Harley and they were reminded, yeah, we know you've been fighting, whatever, but don't darken our door coming here talking about buying a Harley. So they went to Mr. West, Robert West Sr. He lived on Aragona Boulevard in Virginia Beach. I'm giving you a shout out if you're out there, Bob Sr. But anyway, they went to him, and he was sort of like my dad's arch enemy. They used to argue and stuff, but they used to fish together every Saturday. Anyway, they went to Bob West Sr. and said, hey, we want to buy some bikes, and they won't let us. He was like, what the hell? That's ridiculous. Do you know which bike you want? Long story short, they gave him the money. He went there, bought them Harleys, didn't charge him a dime for doing it. And then he just signed over the title to either of them because they had all their military money. But back in the day, if you was black and you had to have you a Harley, you either had to have a white friend or you had to buy one from somebody who had one used and was just going to sell it. And, regular Joe Blow didn't give a damn who was buying it as long as they was buying it. Right. But at the dealership, Harley was an institution. Even back then, that was an institution. And that institution was not going to be tainted with this interracial, non-segregationist and all that BS. But, but again, like Archbishop said, you did too, Mike, this evolution, we've slowly been moving in the right direction. And there are those folks that would try to drag us backwards and like that. But fortunately, I think at the end of the day, right is always going to win out. And if it's not, we got to stay in the fight until it does. And Hollywood, I'll tell you this real quick, then I'm going to shut up again. But on that show that we were doing where we were talking about the Nazis coming to Florida and that whole thing, I saw you were legitimately pissed. I was too, but we're hosting shows, so we gotta keep our emotions in check. Whereas it's good to be a viewer sometimes because you can just say it like you mean it and get the shit off your chest. But I could tell you were legitimately fired up because if you think like I do, and me and Archbishop were both in the military, so we have a special connection to the greatest generation that went and fought the Nazis. And now, we saw them in Charlottesville marching up and down the streets, with the damn tiki torches and stuff. And I thought that was bad enough from a few years ago. But now we got them here in Florida, Nazis that we fought against in the war to get freedom throughout the world. And we're Americans and they're doing this, man. Yeah. But it did my heart good to see you as fired up as you was about that. Not that, I know you're a hell of a good guy, but reconfirmed for me, yeah, Hollywood is a good dude, not because you're pissed off, but because you're fired up and pissed off about the right thing, which tells
Yes.
me we're going in the, you know what I'm saying? It's like anybody can be pissed off, but that was the thing, like you said earlier, the thing that pushed your buttons was that bullshit. And it did my heart good, brother. It
Well,
legit.
it really does, because my brother was a Marine. My uncle died in Vietnam. My grandfather's brother died in Europe
Wow.
during World War II, and
You
a
got
lot of
skin in the game.
oh yeah, and I cannot sit back and understand why anybody would support I don't even call him a human being, he's a fucking animal. There was over 60 million people that died during that war.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people don't understand. They tortured our boys over there when they were caught.
Yep.
They tortured them, shot them. There was the one massacre where they just lined them in front of tanks.
Yep.
How could you support somebody like that in 2023?
It's arrogance. It's arrogance, and these people. I mean, it's crazy. We went against that, didn't we, as an entire nation? It's hilarious that you know, the arrogance behind it. You know, like waving a flag in front of Disney. Like, come on, man. Like, that's uncanny, uncalled for. It's unreal what people are willing to do just because of emotions. Those are the most dangerous type of people. Are emotionally driven men.
I don't even
You know
think
what I
it's
mean?
emotion. I don't even think it's emotion. I think it's ignorance. And
Ignorance and arrogance mix for sure.
I think that they have no pride or patriotic responsibility to this country. If you raise your hand and, you know, salute a son of a bitch that committed genocide. And, you know, I'll turn the show controversial. You know, we know about the genocide that happened in Europe, but we never talk. And I'm a big fan of the Machine Gun Preacher.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody talks about the genocide of them babies over in Africa or the women. It just shows you where the world is with some of that kind of thinking, Archbishop.
Well, yeah, you know, and then if you think about a lot of the stuff that we talk about on these different shows, and this is stuff that the mainstream never talks about. So you don't realize that this stuff is actually going on unless you actually sitting on here like scanning and watching these different documentaries that's on, you know, I mean, YouTube has been like the best thing ever because you got documentaries for everything. YouTube, everything is going on because somebody did a documentary on something.
Brother, tell them about what we did for human trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, so
that's right, Arch. But you talk about, I'll let you talk in a second about that. But when you see them type of people saluting a bastard like that in the United States, and then you see the genocide happening now in Africa, you don't know how fucking lucky you are to be an American right now.
Yep, damn right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, we did a show back almost
it's two part
show, but it was like almost a year ago. About 8 months ago, when we was talking about human trafficking, and we had different people that was on there that was a part of these different associations that was dealing with going out and actually finding these women and these children that had been abducted and sold and stuff like that. And then we also had a lady that was on the show that was actually a victim of this, that had been abducted and had went through a number of years going through, you know, everything that was going on. And, you know, when we first started talking to her on the phone, I know when I first started talking to her on the phone, I said, listen, I know what we're talking about tonight is going to bring up a lot of skeletons that you may not want to bring up. So anything that you don't want to bring up, don't. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you don't want somebody that has healed from a situation to relapse and go back into it. But she was a trooper about it, you know, and she put it out. The good, bad, and the ugly, she put it out. For those of you that haven't seen it, go on the Big Boneyard, scroll down, and you'll see it. There was we did 2 segments on it. Yep. And it's a lot of information that was put out for there. But this is stuff that the mainstream really didn't even talk about. Now you may hear it every now and then, but it's like you hear it one day, but then you don't hear it no more.
Right. It's going to be on page 36. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have
Well,
these young kids and these women that's abducted every single day, that's either being shipped overseas, shipped to other countries, all this other stuff for sex, on drugs, everything else. You know what I mean? It's crazy when you get these people on there and you listening to all the stuff that they've ran into and that they bought these people from. It makes you sad in one and mad on the other end, because you're like, how is it that we live in a country and this happens the way
And we allowed that. Yeah. How did that happen?
right?
You know,
We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world, but this shit right here happens, and you know they take it from here and shipping them to other places. You know what I mean? And these people that, you know, you get some that may escape, and you know, or some that these groups find or whatever. But think about the number of these women and children that disappear and you never see them again. Especially, you know, and it's not just white. It's white, black, and indigenous people that's disappearing, that you never see them again in life. That's somewhere else right now, addicted to drugs, tricking, doing everything else because they bringing these kids in. There was a movie I watched on Netflix a couple weeks ago that was talking about this very thing, and they was down in Central America, and they pulled all these kids, and they did this thing with like a model search. They were searching for all these different little kids to be little models and stuff. And they got all these little kids in there and told the parents, like, hey, we're gonna do little modeling things. It's a closed session. Y'all aren't allowed to be here, but come back at 5 o'clock. That's when everything will be open. Come back and get your kids. They come back, these kids gone.
Was that Gloria? The story about Gloria Trevi?
No.
Okay.
Get the actual name for it. I just it just came out like this year.
Okay.
And these kids disappeared, and there was a little boy that had got called Sound of Freedom. That's what it is.
Okay.
The movie just came out.
Right.
They had this inspector with Homeland Security. He was like over this particular section, and he had done it for so many years that he traveled to all these different places trying to get these kids. And he found this one little kid, and he told him about his sister. And he went back and tracked till he finally found him. But when he found him, he also found like over 200 other kids that had been abducted. And it was a whole chain of people that was involved in it. You know, so this isn't just some little, you know, mom
once in a while thing. Yeah.
Right.
You know, stuff. And they were shipping these kids in shipping containers, putting them on ships, and was shipping them all over the place. You know, this is the stuff that people don't understand. This is the stuff that they don't talk about on the on the news and stuff like that.
Very
That's
right.
Bring it out. You know, everybody has to know.
I want to throw out. You hit on something. A couple of different things. So we did like a 2-part. You know, like 2 weeks in a row. The first week, the reason that we actually there were 3 women that we had made contact with who were survivors of this human trafficking. And that first week, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it because it was so emotional. It was just so damn, you know, like Archbishop said, it was going to take them back to a place where, and all 3 of them were in therapy, and this was a rough time. And some of them
absolutely
had been out of this thing for one lady. It had been 5 years.
It's already hard enough to get on camera and do a show, let alone talk about some crazy traumatic stuff.
Yeah. So that next week, where we had different guests and different folks, the one lady that was there she was a survivor, and she had to get herself. It took her a week to get herself right, but the reason that she did it, she felt that it was too damn important for folks not to know about what happened. And then we did something way different. We had for the state of Mississippi, we had the commander of the Human Trafficking Task Force for the state of Mississippi, she's a biker, she's in a club, she's a woman, and the whole idea was to exchange information. We also had the woman who was in charge of she's out of the UK, Lorraine Smith. We call her Low for short, but Low is in Europe, and she works with both the survivors of these women and children who have been abducted by these what they call Western Bloc gangs in Europe. Now, we learned so much. Like, we learned in Europe, it's organized gangs, and they do one thing and one thing only, and that's human trafficking. Whereas here in the United States, it's a different. It's still happening. They just do it in a less organized fashion, because now you're dealing with pimps, guerrilla pimps, and certain gangs, but not to the same degree or volume as they are in Europe. But the thing is, the trade is going on. We learned, and here's the biggest thing. I keep saying we learned, right? So we learned a lot of stuff, which means that we learned it and the audience learned it. But here's the big reason as to why we were doing that, because bikers are everywhere. And we got the result, and I mean damn near immediately, where we're hearing from people both in Florida and other states, where people were sending messages. Hey, I just saw such and such and such. You guys talked about that on the show, where we gave all kinds of examples of how you can see, because a lot of times these people aren't really hiding. You know, they're all kinds of different places. They'll be in Walmart. They'll be working as work slaves. Not all sexual slaves, but they'll be working for some factory, and they're 12 years old. And there's and right here in Florida, Miami actually located a student who was told the only reason he was a student is because what do you call it? DCF, division child what do they call it? Child welfare Division of Children and Families, that DCF, went to the place where they were forcing this kid to work. He's 14 years old, had been illegally smuggled into the United States, sold off he was a sex slave at one point. Then he was a slave. He was working for a restaurant, all kinds of bad stuff. And the DCF said, hey, this kid's supposed to be in school. Had they not forced the kid to go to school to be in compliance with the law to keep the DCF off of him, then this kid would have never been in that school. She would have never been like, hey, wait a minute. All the stuff they talked about on the show, this kid has all of the earmarks of one of these, and guess what? It was. So they got him squared away. They got him with a good family. Wow. He's taken care of. I can't go into it too much, but the thing is that this story has repeated itself again and again and again by some dirty ass biker on some dirty ass bike somewhere, because they watched that damn show and realized that, hey, that barcode, that's not a fashionable thing. That might mean something. Hey, wait a minute, let me make a phone call. Or in the case of some of these guys are like, let me go talk to the handlers. And I'm sure that those handlers are back on solid foods now as well. But repeatedly, you know, just that one thing, we did it 2 weeks and we talk about it a lot. But it's like Archbishop was saying, it's going on in 2023. It's happening on a large scale. And especially, I'll take this minute. If you live in a port town, like if the town you live in, there's a major waterway where boats are coming in and out with products, human trafficking is going on in that town, because that's the number one way. Like you said, they'll put a bunch of kids or women or whomever in a doggone Connex box. We call it in Marine Corps the big shipping containers. They're moving them in. They're moving them in and out that way. So if you're in one of the towns and wonder, well, I don't think that's happening here. Guess again, it is happening wherever you are. It's happening. Especially if you got water going to your town.
Oh no, it definitely happens, and we have it happen with not even just with that. For instance, here in the Port of Long Beach, here in Southern California, wasn't that long ago that they open up, they do random inspections on some of the containers and stuff, and they'll open them up. And one time recently, within I think the last couple of years, I think it's happened a couple of times where they open it up and it's like full of Chinese men that half of them are dead. Yeah, they were using the bathroom, the corners of the container to like shit in. It was terrible, terrible conditions. Yeah, it's happening all around the world.
I wanted to ask Archbishop this. Chinatown wants to come on and say hi to Big Bone and Archbishop.
Please.
But Why do you think the media had such a problem with that Sound of Freedom movie?
I think they have a problem. I don't think it's the media that has a problem with it. I'm thinking it's the powers that be that has a problem with it. And the powers that be owns the media. So they tell them what to talk about and what not to talk about. I think that's the big issue. You know, like what Bone was saying was absolutely correct. I also want to give a shout out to Anthony. Remember, Anthony was the guy from Detroit, from the Detroit Trafficking Kids Associate.
Tone Poley.
He's on TikTok and all this different stuff. He's always posting stuff. They actually go on hands in. They bust in hotel rooms. They do everything to get kids out. The thing is though, it's like people try to cover up shit like that because they don't want people to think like, oh, like this is what really goes on. You know what I mean? And a lot of people kind of look at it and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind until it's one of their family members that disappears.
Correct. Yep. Until it happens to you or someone that's close to you, then all of a sudden now we care about it. You know.
Right. So once that happens, that's when shit gets real. When it happens to you, you know. But think about all these other families that's missing their daughters and their sons and sisters, aunts, whatever, because they've been abducted. You know, I was back a few months ago. There was a lady that I know. She just happened to call me one day and she was like, hey, what if you come by the house and look at something for me? So I go by there, and where she was at work, somebody had marked her car, had put the little yellow stripe across her tire, had marked her car, and she said that she felt like somebody had been following her. And when she went to her job and happened to pull up the security cameras to where her car was sitting, it shows somebody actually going through and actually marked her car, and they marked it with this kind of paint that you like couldn't scrub off, so they knew the car. And the only reason why nothing happened to her that particular day is because when she got off work, she walked out with a group of people and she was able to get into her car and leave. And she didn't notice that the paint was on her car until she got home, But when we was talking about on this particular show, there's a lot of things that goes on. What they do, like they put stuff on your windshield wiper. They put zip ties on your door openers, and on your door handles and stuff like that. They do all this stuff so then that way it's quicker for them to pick you up. You know what I mean? But the media itself, if you think about it, the media focuses on certain things. And while they focused on certain things, it's all about manipulation. Totally. And everybody knows that with manipulation, it's all about what you see right now. It doesn't have to be true, but it's what you see right now. So I'll give you an example. Here for the past couple of weeks, the only thing that we hear on TV, what are they talking about all the time? Trump. Trump done did this, Trump done did that, Trump done did this. I don't give a fuck what Trump did, tell you the truth. I don't give a fuck what he did. I mean, tell you the truth, actually, he's straight up fucking G, for real. You know what I mean? Because he was doing this shit, for real. You know what I mean? Now, I might not agree with his politics, but what he did, he was a straight up fucking G for doing it. But anyway, everybody sit there and we talking about Trump. You know what I mean? And you see the little motorcade, him getting on flying displays, walking in and out, whatever. Now, during the time that this is going on, there's 14 or 15 fucking bills that just passed through that ain't nobody talking about. It's all kind of stuff that's going on that nobody's talking about.
See, that is it.
Don't you focused on this? And while you focused on this, you are ignorant to this. And that's what it is. It's all about smoke and mirrors. That's what it is. They want you to focus on this so you don't pay attention to this. And by the time you pay attention to this, it's too late and you fucked. You know what I mean? So this is the reason why we put out a lot of stuff that we put out to let you know, like, okay, you may be paying attention to this, but focus on this. Because this here is what's going to affect your family. Trump, don't nobody give a fuck about that. That's not going to affect your house. But this right here is, though. You know, we just had this hurricane that just came through Florida. And the town that it hit, if your house wasn't sitting up on stilts 20 foot up, you got completely washed out. But they passed this new insurance law here that they jacked up the insurance up so damn high that people can't afford insurance. So that whole town got wiped out, and nobody had insurance because they couldn't afford it. So then what happens? Now you got these little greedy landowners that come up, these land developers to show up and be like, hey, I know you got washed out. I know you don't got insurance. Here, take this little money right here.
Mm-hmm.
People get washed out. They lost everything. What they gonna do? They're gonna take that money. And then they're gonna turn it right around, build some fucking hotels, put a damn resort up on the shit or whatever, you know. And that's what it is. You know, it's all about, you know, taking from the little man to make your shit more.
Well, you just described, like, in a physical sense, what media is. You know what I mean? In that sense, that it's lies and manipulation equals money every single time, and that's what their goal is to do. In all seriousness,
I gotta bring China down on here. She wants to say hi to Big Bone and Archbishop.
I want to answer your question though too, Hollywood. You had a great question earlier. But go ahead. Where is she? Why won't you let us talk to China Doll? Why are you acting funny?
Why are you acting funny?
Hey,
What's up,
China
China?
Doll?
Hello. How are you boys doing?
How are you?
She watches your show all the time, so she wanted to say hi.
I do.
What's
I
up,
love
China
it.
Doll? How you been?
Listening to you guys.
Well, you don't call, you don't write. People are really, people are saying, why is China Doll acting that way? We don't even understand why. We thought, because we've been talking about putting people in boxes and stuff. We just assumed that Hollywood has one of those at home and put you in it. That might be some kinky, couple. I don't know.
I could probably fit in a carry-on suitcase. I mean, I don't know. It's possible.
Right on.
What do you think about the subjects that they bring up on their show compared to the other biker channels? I think it's a lot more in depth.
It's more deep and it's more intense. I mean, I love the fact that they're not about repeating other people's news, because it's true that it's like you guys eventually run out of stuff to talk about. It's really hard to find, and everybody keeps doing each other's stuff. So I think it's great that they have a different way about their show and discussing real topics, real things. And it doesn't always have to be about biker this, biker that, biker this, biker that.
Yeah, and they've been doing consistently every week since the beginning, and that shows consistency is key, man. And I love that these guys, no matter what, they're live. You can expect them at their time, and that they're on. So that's with the exception of Bone. You are like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes late.
Yeah, I suck.
Just saying. But you're gonna be on though. We'll see.
Because
we can expect you.
Because and we I remember when I first started the show. I'm not even kidding you. I think the first thing was, as we were writing these like the promos and all that stuff, I always used to say about 7 p.m. I mean, he was like, well, is it 7 p.m. or not? It's about 7 p.m. Well, why? It has to be 7. Well, like, hey, because we're doing biker shit. We literally, if you ask Archbishop, how many times have we been on the road coming back from out of town, run back inside, peel off the freaking duster and the boots and get in here, log on and everything, when we were just coming back from freaking Atlanta or Miami or freaking Mississippi or somewhere, and we rushed back to get back in and do the damn thing. Or we were at, might have been at some sort of a meeting or, some biker shit. So we're real bikers. And a lot of times the shows that we do, and you're right, and we appreciate y'all saying all of this because it means a lot. I promise you it means a lot coming from y'all folks. It means everything. But we do try to see the stuff that we talk about. Why would we always ask the underlying question, as in, why would bikers give a damn about this subject? And Archbishop has the best answer, which is because guess what?
We're humans.
Yeah,
that's what I know. I know it's human.
Somebody get a snapshot of that one, man. Look at that.
Screenshot it. We're doing it live.
Doing that live.
There he is.
But But we always try to keep the biker perspective, but I love the fact that we cover a lot of different stuff. Oh, so real quick, Hollywood, you asked in regard to that movie, why is it that there's been such a reaction in regard to that movie? And actually, it's not what I discovered. It's not the content of the movie itself. It was the outspoken opinions of some of the actors in regard to their politics. And it's one of those sort of things where one or two of those folks are kind of like way out in right field. I mean, like way the fuck out there, like the Jewish space lasers and the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff. Even though the movie, spot on, absolutely spot on, it talked about and covered and shared not just entertainment purposes, but for purposes of putting a light on a problem that we have in the world. And actors did their job as actors, but personally, some of those guys kind of used the platform and the attention that they were getting for the movie to talk about all this political stuff, and it was pretty divisive. So that's where that headache came from. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like if you like Michael Jackson and you think he touched a kid, do you still listen to Michael Jackson? Can you separate the artist and his art from some shit that was going on outside of him making his art? So it's one of those kind of things. So that's kind of what happened with the movie there.
One of the things I noticed, Big Bone, about Archbishop when it came to this subject of human trafficking is the emotion that you have behind it, Archbishop. It's something that you believe in, and I can really tell that.
Yeah.
Well, when you, I think when we was doing before we did the show, I was talking to Anthony, and then the people that we had on the show, I actually sat down and talked to each of them on the phone and listen, and like with the survivors, for instance, just listening to what they went through. You can be the hardest person on the planet, but listen to one of these stories will humble you. Because you think about like, okay, it took a lot for you to make it through that, and how they were talking about how they were, strung out on drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And they were doing that just to make it through. It wasn't
just
because
to cover the pain.
Right. They needed it to make it through. And you start listening to how, like, you think like, really, can another human being treat someone that way? For the amusement of somebody else, and that the reason why we were so passionate about those particular shows, and it's a couple other ones that we were like really passionate about, is because that stuff hits home. Because I have daughters, I have sisters, and I know what I would do if something happened to one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
It ain't shit that you can do to keep me from getting at whoever it was. And I'm a kill the concrete of whoever the fuck did it. That's just me. But it was mind numbing hearing some of the stuff that was going on and hearing some of the stories that Anthony was saying about busting up into these hotel rooms and them having, 9, 10, 12-year-old girls in these rooms. And you got these old ass doing stuff. That stuff is heartbreaking, and then you think you got these young kids that also have to become an adult sometime, and you never let them be a kid, but they got all the adult baggage already.
Yep. You took all their innocence away. You took it all away, and you just threw that on top of them.
I'll be right back, guys. China isn't a fill-in for me. I got to take a piss.
That's what happens when it goes past an hour for them.
So this lady that came on the second week of the show, she was the commander in charge of the human trafficking task force in Mississippi, and she had watched the previous week's show, and I remember she was sort of saying to us and to the audience, well, I know you guys, because we had said in that show one that we don't necessarily call 911, or we say we don't call them 3 numbers. And she was going, well, I know you guys won't do that or don't do that, but I want you guys to do that. And so we pointed out, hey, it's not that we're against it. We're just saying certain ones of us that come from a certain MC persuasion are not inclined to call those 3 digits. And clearly the way that that Anthony and some other folks who we know get down, those calls were never made. And I'm sure the perpetrators that grabbed up them little girls and abducted those women, they would have wished that somebody would have called 911 to save their ass. But and that was as much as it's a horrible thing, it's pretty refreshing to know that it's still good people out there who are willing to put their ass on the line to help these women, these children, and boys, and in some cases men, like out there in LBC, that was a bunch of Chinese men, grown ass men, but there's folks that are willing to put their ass on the line for somebody else. And for us to be able to learn about that and share that information with our audience it's a wonderful thing, because it also encourages other folks to get involved, not just with human trafficking, which is hugely important, but a lot of this other stuff that we get a chance to talk about. So I feel just blessed that we have this platform and that it's endured for this amount of time with the support of folks like yourself, Hollywood, and everybody else like Dibber and Shaggy and Black Dragon and all that. So hopefully, we'll keep doing the damn thing. We're going to try to anyway.
I know I cut into your show time, man.
Yeah, that's all right, brother.
This is really a fascinating conversation that we had today. This is the kind of stuff people actually don't know about me. This is the stuff I actually like talking about.
Oh, right on.
Because it challenges your mind. And I don't like, I already know that I got this one niche that I'm putting in a box, but that's why I like the second half of my show with Motorcycle Madhouse. We talk about all kinds of stuff, because we are human beings, if people like it or not, because I've seen some comments, well, I thought bikers don't work for cops. Well, say that if your little sister is missing, and next thing you know, she's sitting in Europe right now with one of the Albanian gangs. You know what I mean?
Right. How much street resources do you got? You know what I mean? Is your street resources going to be able to recover your sister at that point, or your little daughter? I don't know.
Oh, speaking of some goofy that somebody commented, but Steve Williams said this thing about Malcolm X said that that black people must that black men love being in chains by the Democrats. So I have a need to respond to Steve Williams for that stupid ass comment. So first of all, I don't know the best or the worst black man. I don't think he's interested in being in anybody's freaking chains. And I think he took that statement out of context. And it's also chronologically speaking, very incorrect. At the time in which Malcolm X made that statement, the Democratic Party was extremely conservative. In fact, they were an offshoot from what they call the Dixiecrats. So it was not the Democratic Party of today, and the Republican Party was not the same Republican Party ideologically speaking or otherwise at that time. So that's one of these guys who takes a small piece of information and tries to pervert it for the understanding of anybody ignorant enough to listen to his ass. So yeah, that's not right. And this conversation that we're having today is not about Democrats versus Republicans, because if you listen to us, you've heard me say 18,000 times that Democrats and Republicans are two wings of the same fucking bird. And you need both of them.
I've heard you say that millions of times.
And the thing is that once we, the people, figure out that the Democrats, they're going to play your ass if you let them. Republicans, they're going to play your ass if you let them. So stop being so, just it's like cult-like thinking. I'm with this team. Like I love the freaking Cleveland Browns, or who have nothing against Cleveland Browns. I'm just using for an example, but Cleveland Browns, win or lose, damn it, that's my team. You can be that way about sports, but when it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, pull your head out of your ass and start doing what's in the best interest of you and your family. And 9 times out of 10, the rhetoric that they're pitching you, these politicians that are pitching you and selling you, what they're saying on the podium and what they're saying on that 14-second soundbite on Fox News or on YouTube or Facebook or whatever is not the shit that they're saying in the office. And I know this because I spent just this year, the first 4 or 5 months of the year, I spent in Tallahassee and at the Capitol talking to these folks. I'm talking in their offices and speaking on the freaking floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives and all like that. And let me tell you, as soon as you walk in the door and the door closes, then that Democrat right there and that Republican right there are high-fiving each other on the bullshit that they just said to each other. They're making lunch plans, and they've already made a decision about what they're going to do with the future of Floridians. And, and you know, and I'm sure it's no different on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. You know, the only ones getting played are people stupid enough to buy into that shit. So, Steve Williams, do yourself a favor and don't be such a sheep, man. Don't be such a sheep.
Well,
Anyway.
this is, you know what, one of the best shows that we've had a deep conversations and stuff. It's going to continue over on the Big Boneyard. Make sure you guys go over there, Mike, if you can put the link in there while everybody's on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you got coming up on your show, guys?
We have no fucking idea.
Hey, we do it live. That's the best way to be, man. We just go live, man. We just start talking.
Just roll with it.
Hey, I'll tell you what, we'll bring China Doll over there for about 45 minutes and ask her in different ways, where the hell has she been? And how come she don't call, she don't write? Because that is a show. If you ask me, that's a show right there.
There you go. You're gonna be a guest on their show one of these days.
Inquiring minds want to know. I'm just saying.
Honestly, we'll be like an hour before the show pondering. You know, like I'll go through the week and I'm watching different things, Bones watching different things, stuff going on, and then we're like, okay, so what we gonna talk about? He'll
Where to God?
Stuff, and he'd be like, okay, well, let's do this, and then we try to find a way to incorporate them both, and still be able to put out a generalized message, you know. And that's, you know, a lot of times we can't plan ahead because there's so much stuff that's going on. It's kind of hard to plan ahead as to what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
you know, every now and again we'll, you know, every once in a blue moon we'll have something planned out like a week ahead of time. That's very often. I mean, that's not very often.
It's very rare.
Right at the hour before, 2 hours before, me and him on the phone chopping it up like, okay, we're gonna do this and this is how we're gonna work it, and we're gonna, you know, this topic here has so many different legs on it, it's unreal. So we're gonna shoot this way, and then we're gonna shoot this way, and if we can't get it all done, and we'll push it for the next week, and we'll keep pushing it, you know. But to go back on what Big Bone said right quick to this guy, how can you support somebody that's not really supporting you? You think about this. These people that we running around pledging our allegiance to has not really done a fucking thing for us, period. Nothing. But we run around here like we're like in total loyalty to a person that, number one, you're never gonna see. Number two, ain't never gonna call you by your first name. And number three, don't give a fuck about you anyway. Only thing they worry about is getting to this spot where they're making this money, and once they get to that spot, you realize that they get a check regardless whether they in those positions or not. They get paid for the rest of their fucking life.
Yep.
They don't give a fuck about you.
No, they don't even know you exist.
Right. You sitting here right now, half of the people that sitting here on here right now is worried about how they gonna pay their bills and be able to move from one month to another. Everybody lives paycheck to paycheck, whether you know it or not. Everybody lives paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They don't give a fuck about that. Never have. Never will. You know, so we sitting here paying homage and being loyal to someone that is never going to be loyal to you. You know, and it's kind of crazy how we sit there and we listen to this shit and be like, really? You know what I mean? Is that really what we going with? You know what I mean? Now, I know senators, I know congressmen. I grew up, you know, with congressmen, with congressmen's kids. that, you know, the congressman ended up being a governor of the state of Ohio. I knew their whole fucking family. You know what I mean? But what does that mean though? Nothing. Don't mean shit. You know what I mean? Did some extra bread come to my dad's house to feed us? Hell no. You know what I mean? Did we know him? Sure we did. But that's about as far as it goes.
That's about it. Yep.
But you need to put your faith in what matters. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of people fail to realize. I mean, think about it. You had all this stuff that went on January 6th, right? All those people was out there protesting and shit. They wanted to go and ride the Capitol and the whole shit. Guess what? All the motherfuckers half of them end up going to jail, right? Half of them went to jail. You got one motherfucker right now, and he a black dude.
Oh yeah.
Talking. All this goddamn talking. Don't know no fucking body. Don't know nobody at that motherfucker. But he out to run his mouth. Guess what? He's sitting in jail right now and can't even bail his motherfucking ass out.
Yeah.
And nobody else bailed him the fuck out. He the only token motherfucker.
Out of 19 motherfuckers, the black guy's still locked up.
Still sitting.
Wow.
So a motherfucker couldn't even bail you the fuck out when you got hemmed up. You know what I mean? That's the shit that we live with.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what I mean?
true.
Like wake up for real. Wake
That
up.
part.
Wake up.
There you go, right there. Thanks, Douche, for subbing to the Boneyard, man. Become a bonehead over there. They got a show coming up. I kind of ate into their time. But wow, just a perfect show right here, man. This is I like talking about this kind of stuff.
Hey,
Absolutely.
unless the government's coming to my house and paying my bills for me, you got to learn to read between the lines when they speak.
Yep. That.
Well, and I've always said, like, I'm not sure why all these people are so worried about like who's president and like, oh, we'll vote for this, but how come you talk all this vote for the president, but that doesn't change anything for you locally? Why aren't you voting for your local governments?
Exactly.
Vote for the things that, like you said, Bone, that are going to matter, and as well as you, Arch, the things that are going to matter, and the things that are directly going to affect me is my local government. It's not the president that's going to be affecting me. You know, I really could care less. They're just some face, at this point. But
before we let them go, everybody, I don't know if you know this, but you got two movie stars sitting right here. I just learned about it. Archbishop, you got to tell everybody before you guys go to your show.
Look, we're involved in this movie, and it's called Ride or Die. It's I don't know, it was kind of like some humbug thing that we got involved in this, but I'm glad that we did. It's they just started filming on the 14th. They just started filming, and they're gonna try to have this released, I think, February, March of next year.
No, January, February.
Is it January, February?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they're saying January, February.
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be released January, February. But it's a full biker movie. It's a legit biker movie. Let me say it like that. It's a legit biker movie, which means ain't no fake shit. Is about as authentic as you can get. But it's a great movie. It's a great script. The directors and the writers and all of them, they've actually spent a lot of time getting actual knowledge and understanding as to what the MC culture is really about when they wrote this script. It's a good movie. Like I said, I thought at first that me and Bone just gonna be like some extras in this movie. You may see them like, oh yeah, there I go right there in the corner. You see over behind the boxes and shit. Yeah, that's me over there. But that's not what happened. We end up actually having some good parts in this movie, and then, like I said, it's gonna be some crashes. It's gonna be some shoot 'em up, bang bang. It's gonna be some people that ain't gonna make it, and a whole bit. But it's exciting.
Archbishop is a murderous bastard.
Man, we're looking forward to it. We're gonna see it on the big
He's a
screen.
murderous bastard.
Why do I see Bone walking into a scene with a harem with him? I don't know.
Harem, wow.
I'll tell you what,
Big coat and everything.
Hey,
He's good.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you what.
absolutely.
I wanted to do that, but Miami vetoed that shit. But
Oh, he
I'll
said
tell you
no.
something funny. No shit though. Honest to God, the first and like Archbishop said, we got involved in this thing sort of like a say what now? And the first script, I bullshit you not. Someone said, "Hey, well, what do you think about something like this?" Oh yeah, well, the question was, "Oh well, would this happen?" Like some folks we know ask, "Hey, if this was on the biker set, would something like this happen?" I'm like, "Oh hell no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit." Hey B, that shit make sense? He's like, "Fuck no, that nah." So long story short, when we finally figured out that there's a movie coming, that this was related to a movie, and the guy's like, "Hey, take a look at this script," and I'm like, that is a bunch of bullshit. This is garbage. I wouldn't wipe my ass with it. And guess what? The first script of the movie, no kidding, trashed it, the whole thing. Somebody got their feelings hurt because the guy that wrote it, he got trashed along with, that wasn't the goal. It was just like, this is garbage. This is bullshit. So they got rid of him, got rid of the script and the person that wrote it, and started from scratch. And that's when shit got good. Real good. Real good. So now this shit is going to be the most authentic. And remember, this coming from some folks who have a whole movie making staff of people who are professionals at making movies, but they're also professionals at educating themselves on their subject matter. And they've become de facto, at least for movie purposes, de facto experts in this MC culture. And just to be on the safe side, they've got actual real bikers to catch anything that slip through the cracks or what have you. So what we're going to end up with is a fantastic movie with a murderous bastard. I'm sorry, yeah, Archbishop, I ain't supposed to say that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's a murderous bastard in this one. Oh, good God. But yeah, so remember, we grown up watch for everything from Easy Rider to Sons to freaking Hell's Angels movies to all of the Mayans and all of the what was that one with Charlie Sheen? So we've seen all of the biker movies and had critiques for every single one of them and know why every one of those movies sucked and what they got right and what they got wrong. So we're coming from the standpoint of being actual real bikers who actually get to finally say, instead of yelling at the screen about, why the fuck did you shake his hands with your gloves on? You don't do that. To actually making a movie where that don't happen, or someone even corrects someone for doing that in a movie.
Right.
So,
right.
And it's like 50 other things like that, just in the first 20 minutes of the movie. So if you're a real biker, you're going to love it. If you're not a real biker, you're going to totally fucking love it.
Rock on, man. Awesome. But they're going to go over to their station now. Make sure you switch over. You're going to probably hear something that just came out of the air from them, like they said. But I'll get arranged it where China Dow can interview with you guys. That would be awesome.
That would absolutely be cool. Let's do it like soon. That would be totally cool.
Awesome.
Hey, you with it?
Game on.
All right.
All right, guys, I'll let you go to your show right there. Again, everybody go over, switch to the Boneyard right now. Mike just put in the at Big Boneyard 1880. I think that's the link to the YouTube channel.
Yep,
so
that
click
is
on
channel.
that and you'll be taken right over there to the live show right now. And we appreciate having you guys on, man. It's awesome.
Right on, guys.
Absolutely, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on here. It was our honor. Thank you.
And thank
Get
you
on
guys.
over there, guys. We'll talk to you later. Rock on, baby. We'll see you tomorrow.